Greetings. You know, I have talked about losing weight and getting fit, and for years I had a Fitbit Flex. Matter of fact, I had it for 5 years. I had to replace parts of it a couple of times here and there, but it got to a point where the last fob I had, I was having to charge it every single day. And I said, you know what, this is 5 years old. The technology is probably like smartphones where I need to upgrade. So I updated to this, which is the Fitbit Inspire. Inspire comes in, well, the regular Inspire, and then the HR, which is for heart rate. I don't need anything telling me what my heart rate is. If I feel okay, then we're fine. And if it's beating heavy, I know there's something else wrong. So I don't need the heart rate. And for the thing itself, it actually works pretty good. It gets the steps down right. It gives me alerts to make sure that I get my 250 steps in every hour. If I get it in, it tells me, hey, you did this. If I'm in within 10 minutes of the end of the hour, I haven't hit it yet. It vibrates at that point. It pretty much gives me everything I want. What's the problem? Syncing the bad boy. I have a Samsung Galaxy 9, and I was able to get it connected to it, but for whatever reason, it says no device found every time I try to sync it to the phone. So I said, let me try the tablet. Same issue. So I contacted the people via Twitter. One thing to learn, if you ever have a complaint with something, go to Twitter and put it out there and find their Twitter handle because they will respond. Anyway, I put it out there saying I'm having these sync issues. So someone contacts me. And I tell them the issue, I tell them what I've had to do, which in essence, I have to take it off every single time. I have to attach it to this dongle thing that came with it, the charger. And you have to hold on to it and let it reset. And sometimes it takes up to a half hour of doing that, pushing that button before it actually syncs. And that's irksome because the battery itself will last up to 5 days without having to charge it every single night. But if I have to take it off multiple times a day, it's defeating the purpose for the reason that I bought it. So they tell me, well, we've had issues with its compatibility with Android version 9. Is that the version that you have on your Android? And I said, well, yes, I guess it is. So they said, we don't really have it fixed. We're working as hard as we can on it. Okay, fine. What about my tablet? Because the tablet's not a smartphone. And they didn't have an answer for that. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Why would you have something out there that doesn't work? Now, I could have sat there thinking it was just me, but I already knew it wasn't me because one of the things that I always do is I research stuff. And so I went online, and there are thousands of people with the exact same issue. And the Fitbit community, or the people who work for Fitbit, always give the exact same advice. Sometimes they tell people, well, we're going to open up a ticket. But if you've already told me that you have a problem with the Android version 9, what's the point of opening up a ticket? There ain't a thing you can do for me. Now, just to get this out of the way, I had that same problem with my Fitbit Flex, where early on it worked and then suddenly it wasn't working for a while, and I contacted the people and they said, well, we're having a trouble with the update of Android, whatever it was at that time. Then it started working fine, and then it stopped again. And, it's one of these kind of things where I get irked, and I'm sure everyone else does, when you upgrade to something new and then it doesn't work with everything that it's supposed to work with. And you pay a lot of money. Okay, you know what? It didn't cost me hundreds of dollars like a smartphone, but it still cost enough money. And you buy extra accessories for it. You sign up for the Fitbit app so they can track these things, and you use these things to help track your health. And it doesn't work. But it's not just this. It happens with a whole lot of apps. It happens with a lot of programs. It happens with tons of stuff where we get these things, and I don't know if everyone looks the things up online like I do, but I looked everything up online. And the one thing that I'd heard about the Inspire was that people had trouble getting it hooked up to their technology, their phone or whatever. And the funny thing is, the very first time I had to hook this to the phone, it worked perfectly. I said, well, maybe I'm the lucky one. But in subsequent times, when things weren't working and it decided it wouldn't sync, then I would uninstall it, and then I would reinstall it, and sometimes it wouldn't take. Even when it got the number, because it sends you a code, and you put the code number in, which means it says, we found you, and then it'll run through its thing and says, oh, we didn't really find you. You got to do it again. It tells you turn Bluetooth off and on, which is the stupidest thing in the world because that does nothing. It's just one of those kind of things like when people used to say with computers, they say, well, did you click such and such, whatever. That has nothing to do with it. Most people will do things like that because they think it does, but a lot of these technology companies, they follow this script, and none of that stuff works. They're not used to folks who at least know something about it and have already done all those things. Trust me, I know. And it took me back to thinking how Windows used to be. And let's go back. Windows 3.1 was great technology. It was brand new and it worked pretty good, but it didn't have to be all that fancy. Windows 95 was not necessarily a bad program. I thought it was great. It was a great update to what we had before, because before it was pretty much, well, working technology. All of a sudden, 95, and this is just my opinion, 95 helped bring about the internet, because now you could do all other cool kind of things with it. And then Windows 2000 came and people freaked because it was horrible. Windows 2000 was the horrible. Windows 2000, let's see, I'm going to say Vista was horrible. Windows 10, it's got some nice things, but I'm still mad at it for wiping out my hard drive. But you know what? Large companies can get away with stuff like this. It's like the Samsung people. Now, I have always liked Samsungs, and that sounds cool. But last year, they tried to put out something called the Fold, or I think it was called the Fold, where, you know, it folded. I couldn't really figure out why anyone would want this kind of phone, but a lot of people clamored for it. And you know what? It kept breaking in half. The technology was not good enough. I mean, the manufacturing wasn't good enough. The technology may have been, but the manufacturing wasn't good enough. And people were breaking these things, and they finally had to take it back off the market. But you know what? Samsung recovered. They're a massive company. They make tons of things, so they can get away with mess like that. It's irksome, but they do it. They can afford it. Now, I've gone through all this stuff, my little gripes, because there are some people, like me, every once in a while, well, we try to create some of our own products. There are people who create programs to try to, you know, do things with technology. There are folks who create courses. There are folks who, you know, do consulting, things like that, do coaching groups. And it all sounds great. But you know what I have found out? I have found that sometimes some of the stuff they're giving you is lacking. And if you have paid $129 for something that's supposed to teach you how to do something, the last thing you want is to be reading something and all of a sudden you come across a line and say, wait a minute, wait, what is this? You jump from this to this. These two things don't match up. And now you have to try to contact somebody. And quite often it's hard to reach them. That was one of the issues I used to have with ClickBank products, because I bought some of those and I tried to market some of those. And the few that I tried to market, actually I said, okay, you know what, this worked okay for me. I learned something from this. I'm good with trying to market this. But sometimes some of those things were horrific. And some of them didn't even let you test it first. You actually had to be a buyer before you could be an affiliate for it. And I didn't trust those folks one single bit, because now they've got you. Sure, you could have turned it back and said, I want my money back. But back then, it was somewhat problematic sometimes to get your money back, because ClickBank would say, hey, it ain't my problem. Same with Commission Junction, by the way. I'm not even sure if they still go under that name, but it was the same thing. And these were big name companies where you would sell stuff and some of that stuff went bad and you try to get your money back or try to get them to pay you. And Commission Junction said, well, you know, that's not what we do. If it's us, we need to make sure that we're putting down everything as much as possible. We need to make sure that the order is right. We need to make sure our instructions are right. We need to make sure that we are giving our potential client, customer, consumer, everything, exactly what they need. Because you know what? We ain't that big. And all we need is to mess with one person early on who then spreads the word to everybody else. You're done. You ain't selling nothing. And you don't get another chance. It works better. General Electric. You know, General Electric has made tons of things. So if all of a sudden they made one TV, and actually I'm not even sure if General Electric still makes TVs, but they used to be a big business. My mother used to make General Electric TVs back in the 60s. But they made so many other things that if something went wrong with one thing, oh, well, we can replace that. And then they just moved on. But for us, it doesn't work that way. You got to take pride in what you're putting together. Don't go for the quick scam, because it ain't gonna work. Sure, you may make some money early on, but once word gets out, your name is mud. And it's just not worth it. So, what do you have to complain about with technology or with products that you've bought? And if you are creating products, if you want to share, tell people how you try to make sure that everything you create is quality stuff. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I may even tell you about some of my stuff one of these days, but not today. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful week.